today with David G. Smith. David, how are you?
I'm doing well, Johnny. Thanks for having me in.
Yes, we are looking forward to this. We've got a lot to talk about. You've got a lot of things that you do and have done and are working on. So for those that are not familiar with you, who is David G. Smith?
Oh, there's a question right there. I've been trying to keep that a secret for a long time.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'm an Iowa native, and I come from not too far away from the Mississippi, up around Dubuque, a little town called Cascade. Grew up a little bit north of there, and Field of Dreams is my backyard. That's where I was raised and living around Worthington, Iowa. And great little town, Cascade, Iowa. So I come from a musical family. We all have the curse. And when I say all, there's 5 siblings, a couple parents, and extended family. And mom and dad, mom was in the church choir for years and years, played piano, and then all her siblings played as well. And matter of fact, they were on a Dean Lanfear show. You're just making me remember this stuff here. Out of Cedar Rapids, her 3 older sisters appeared on the WMT, Dean Lanfear show in the 50s and early 60s. And anyhow, I would come, and then Dad was, he did, when he was in high school, he did plays. He played harmonica right up until the end.
Really?
And just always had that thing right in his pocket, his shirt pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, he would play at the drop of a hat and didn't have to coax him. So, and then I've got 2 sisters, 2 brothers. They're all very fine players. A couple of them have had scholarships to the University of Northern Iowa and University of Iowa. And as a matter of fact, I'm the sandbagger in the family. All I do is write songs. These guys are very proficient at their instrumentation and that. And so I have been plugging away at this for really back to the 70s. And I know I'm dating myself there, but I've played in bands, I've played trios, duos, all that kind of thing. And I finally realized after maybe 10 or 15 years, what really tripped my trigger was writing songs. So that's what I profess to be, is a songwriter. And that was enough that after a little stint at the University of Iowa, I went right out to Colorado for 10 years, got into an all-original rock and roll group called Robin Banks. We were managed by, you guys would know this band, Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
The drummer for Spirit is
Yes.
Ed Cass Cassidy. And he and Cass and his wife Beverly had a little house up in the foothills, and they came down to see us at the Little Bear Inn to see our band play one time. And he approached us and said, "Would you want some management?" And so we had a 4 or 5 year run doing that. But it was during that whole time, 10-year period in Denver and Boulder in that area, that I realized again what really tripped my trigger was writing songs. And so I upped, my roots out there, took my family down to Nashville, and that was 84. And I was down there, I've been down there ever since, really. I lived and worked there in town for a good 5-6 years, and then came back up to Iowa, and have been connected with Nashville ever since. So, boy, I hope that gives you a little bit of a picture of where I've
definitely
been, and where I am now. So, yeah.
Yeah, you've done a lot, and singing, songwriting is your forte. And tell me a little about your songwriting then. So how long, you said you've been in groups, duos, trios, and all that, and then you finally decided to do the songwriting. But have you done any before that, before you were, when you were younger? Did you do any type of songwriting?
I apparently, it was, again, that was in the blood as well. I remember writing prose, poetry. I wrote my first song probably in high school, somewhere along the line there. I remember it was something about an A minor.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I was just thinking about this the other night, where I had a couple songs after high school. I wrote some stuff there, and I was, all the bands coming up were Joni Mitchell, Beatles, of course. A little later on, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. These vocal groups, I really was drawn to the vocal groups who wrote their own material. And so the big influence there, Leonard Cohen, huge influence. These solo songwriters, I think that influenced me early on, but I didn't realize how much until later on. And so did some writing, but really beginning in the 70s, my first album that I recorded maybe 12, 13 years ago now has some songs that were keepers from that early stage. And I'm pretty happy about that. They were keepers. I like to tell people I probably have written maybe over 1,500 songs, and most of them suck. They just don't make the grade. And the 50 or 60, that maybe have some value to them, we've recorded those, or other people have recorded them.
So you said you've written, 1,500 songs. Not all of them are great, but that's a lot of songs. Does that mean it's easy for you to write songs, or is it, still kind of a little harder than it sounds like?
Yeah,
even after writing that many.
Well, that opens up a can of worms for discussion right there. There are those that say you can't learn. I mean, these are big time writers, and I won't name names, but that say, this is not stuff you can learn. I mean, it's either you have it or you don't. And you still have a craft part to it, but either you have it or you don't. And then there's probably most of the rest of us who say it's a craft, it's learnable, but anybody who tells you that they know how to write a song, yeah, I know how to do this, run the other way. Because to me, and this is what keeps me coming back, songwriting is a mystery, and that's a challenge, and I love it. That's what really keeps me coming back. How did that song work? Why does that song work and this one doesn't? Because they're both really good ideas, but somehow you couldn't turn the phrase, you couldn't turn the idea. It came from the wrong perspective. The song got too long, it got too wordy, whatever it is. But why does one song work and the next one doesn't? And I never know. It's a new experience every time I sit down, which for me is pretty much the journeyman way of doing it. It's sitting down. I don't wait for inspiration. I'm working at it every day, and or at least on a weekly basis, or at least on a regular basis. For an indie musician who's also an artist, you've got so many hats to wear that it's hard to be consistent in any one area. But in our camp, we do the best we can. Sure.
Well, we'd like to hear a song from you, if you don't mind. What do you got for us?
After all that. Well, so let's start with, and I don't come in with a set list usually, whether it's a live show or a radio show. And I'm just thinking, I'm going to go with a song here that back when we had newspapers. Remember those?
Oh, yeah, back in the day. Yep.
Yeah, right. The old school thing that I read this story right out of a newspaper. And about a young man by the name of Matthew Wayne and his mother. And he's about 8 years old at the time. And this song really, hopefully self-explanatory, about Matthew, his mom, as told by his dad. And this is called The Edge.
Long before his time. He's my son, he's 8 years old, when he really lost his life. Matthew and his mama put off and drive into town on 7 miles of country road. That boy won't travel now. Got light, can show a pretty face, ugly. Bring to your knees and push you right out to the edge. much the same. With cottonwood and a creek that winds through fields of corn. Matthew's mom had lived till all 27 years. This is where her heart belongs. Matthew liked it here. Life sure a pretty face, girl. Ugly. To your knees and push you right up to rain and fall one August day. Found him driving home when fate drove Matthew and his mom. One slipped off, God rest her soul. One climbed back up to that road. Sundays he still, oh, someday he still walking away. Bad boys looking.
David G. Smith live in studio here on the Local Lick Show with a song called The Edge. I like to ask this question for especially our singer-songwriters, and you kind of talked a little bit about it, writing all the songs, only a few being good. How do you know when a song is good and ready to go and get recorded?
Well, I don't always. So I'm going to put that into a two-part answer. I think, and this is really generic to say it like this, but I think when it feels good for me, now that's one word, feel, but when it resonates, that isn't just, tapping my foot and having a good time and it sounds good in the basement or my bedroom all by myself, but I go out with these songs and I test them out. I use sort of this James Taylor way of testing songs out way back when he was doing this kind of thing. And in his early days, he'd go to some hole in the wall place, as he says, and see if people are responding, and if they're tapping their foot. I mean, that's a form of that engagement. And are they listening? And does anything resonate with them? And then Pete Townsend, I'll refer to something he said that always stuck with me. It's like I can write all the songs I want, but it's the listener who completes them. And so you've got that circle of song right there, right? Just in that statement alone. And it's what is truth in this world? Everybody maybe has a version of truth or whatever it is, but how do you know it works for you? And that's the question you just asked me. And it's like, does it work for the listener too? Are they engaged? Are they responding? I don't write these just for me. It is a great form of therapy. So is hitting tennis balls. I do that too, but does it resonate with your listener? And when you see it, you see it when you evoke some kind of emotion from them. And tapping foot counts.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's always a good sign when you're out there and seeing people do that. That's good. That's good. Well, I want to talk about some of your time in Nashville. Tell me about how you managed to find your way down there, and what do you do down there?
Yeah, what do I do? So, again, my history goes back to really early days of the 80s, starting to make trips down there from Denver. And what I do over the years, it's morphed, it's evolved. I will, unabashedly admit I chased Nashville. I did it, which meant for me as a songwriter, writing songs and pitching them to other people, artists, at all stages of their careers, hopefully that they would cut, in hopes that they would cut any of my songs. And as a songwriter, I've been very lucky. I've hit pretty much everything on the target. Come so close to having a major artist, but we had to cut a song. But a lot of indie artists, a lot of major indie artists have cut, and I'm very proud of that having happened. That went on for about maybe 15, 20 years. Then it got to a point where I realized I was kind of losing my soul. So that changed what I did in Nashville. Before that, I'm writing. I go down there, I'm writing, and I'm writing some more. And I'm networking. I'm over at ASCAP, I'm over at CSAC, I'm over at BMI, and establishing relationships. And back in that day, that still worked. This is pre-Napster. And then it kind of bridges over into the other side of Napster and all that, their ilk. That starts doing the file sharing. And two things happened after that. Once file sharing got its rhythm going, 60% of market share went away for songwriters, really for the entire music industry. And they say overnight, but over about a 10 to 15 year period. The second thing, so no longer could a songwriter put food on the table, have a roof over their head, raise their kids, on a songwriter salary. It was doable before, but once file sharing picked up, all the revenue streams just went, they exploded to where you couldn't find them. So the second thing that happened is, I just really felt like I was chasing my tail and not writing material that resonated even with me. I was trying to think, now what would Tim McGraw say here? What would Reba say here? What would Martino, whoever it might be? And I got lost quick. So what turned me around was a songwriter retreat in Costa Rica around 2008, 2009, somewhere in there, where I met a friend and mentor, Mary Gaucher, and also Daryl Scott, very instrumental, and then Beth Nielsen Chapman, who wrote 5 or 6 number ones, This Kiss for Faith Hill. So I met those three down there, and they met with me independently, and there was only like a dozen songwriters at this place. It was a great environment. And they said, Dave, you need to put your artist hat back on. Now, I needed to hear this from artists of that caliber, because I really have not seen myself as an artist. I really don't. I'm a songwriter. I play a little guitar. I do a little singing, but I'm a songwriter. So they gave me the confidence to get back on that horse, that artist horse. And 10 albums later, here we are. So now what I do when I go down to Nashville, I am writing with these little gizmos that we have, the cell phones and the technology we have. I do writing from a distance. We're using FaceTime, Zoom, whatever we need to do co-writing. So again, all along the way, I am co-writing with some people, as well as doing my own solo kind of writing. And so writing still, and then I go down to record and do a little bit of business. It's so easy in Nashville. There's a lot of magic there that you can't really find in other areas of the country. I would love to be able to find the team I need to work with here in the Quad Cities. And there's some really good people here. There's some good studios. There are some good booking agents. But to do what the kind of level I'm trying to at least accomplish or approach, I've just established so many relationships in Nashville over the last 20, 25 years that it's, what the heck, I'm just going to go with the flow down there. And they get it. They get what you're trying to do right out of the chute. So now it's down to, like we were down there just 2 weeks ago. I've got all the tracks done for the next album, which will be album number 11. And we're going to be calling it Witness Trees. And it's fun. Now it's more fun than ever for me. And that's another thing that happened. There's the earlier days, not so much fun. Now it really is. caliber. I mean, I get to work with. I got Kev Mo on one of my records. I got Mary on all 4 of my studio records. The caliber of performer and studio musician there is just over the top. These guys have worked with Linda Ronstadt and James Taylor and Sting and Paul McCartney and all the biggies. I mean, Bonnie Raitt, on and on. So what you draw from down there, the pool of talent, in whether it's business or music or songwriter, whatever it is just, these are the pros. And I want to run with that if I can.
Sure. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
And sometimes I can't keep up.
Right. That sounds like a good problem, though, maybe.
Well, we stay after it. So.
All right. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about your involvement in Nashville and talk about some of the artists you've worked with and plenty more stuff here coming up in a little bit. Let's do one more song, and then after that, we'll take a short break and come right back. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. What you got for us next, then?
All right. So we have this. We got a lot of mantras in our camp here, and one of them is you never know. As a songwriter, you never know where a song can take you. And I wrote this song with a good friend, Dean Madonia, who was living in Nashville at the time, and he's originally from Michigan area and around Kalamazoo. And this is really Dean's story, and I just love this song. And if this goes out to if there's any Boy Scout, Girl Scout leaders out there, this song took me to my first arena event, and I'm out there, the same event that Maddie and Tay are playing, and this is back in 2015, and it's Dean's story about when he's growing up. He's about 8 or 9. His dad kind of went MIA for a while, and so this scout leader stepped in and kind of filled that void for Dean. And there's a lot that has happened with this. This particular scout leader was responsible for, I believe it was 18 Eagle Scouts, for getting them to Eagle Scout status. And so they honored this gentleman at this 100-year centennial celebration of Boy Scouts back in 2015, and I got to perform for that. So this is called "Doesn't Take Much Light." I called my old scout master, Ernest J., out of the blue. His wife said he's having a bad day. He'd be glad to hear from you. Ernest J. came on the line, and I talked about me growing up poor, not having my dad around. I figured out where the money came from for summer camp. Because of you, those are some of the best days I ever had. I haven't forgotten, and I wanted to tell you that. It's why I call. Now the smallest gesture can spark a life, kindle the courage to fight the good fight, to get the picture, look up at any star. Well, it doesn't take much light to shine in the dark. Ernest J., your wife tells me you're not feeling well because you've got something doctors think it's Parkinson's. Yeah, he said, I've had it for a few years and it's been rough. Like they say, some days you're the windshield and some days you're the bug. Sometimes I tell myself I'm gonna win, and sometimes I just wanna toss the towel in. On days like today, it's good to get help to remind me who I am, and that the smallest gesture can spark a life, Kindle the courage to fight the good fight, to get the picture, look up at any star. But it doesn't take much light to shine in the dark. Here in this day, I'm meeting with my scouts tonight. Gonna set up a telescope and point it at the sky. Put it into focus. I'm gonna tell them what you always told us. That the smallest gesture can spark a life. Kindle the courage to fight the good fight, to get the picture, look up at any star. Well, it doesn't take much light to shine in the dark.
David G. Smith with Doesn't Take Much Light. Hey, we'll have more with David coming up after this break. Stay tuned. You are listening to the Local Lick Show right here on Vintage Radio 107.7 WQUD. I'm Johnny Dollar, and we're broadcasting live from the Rhythm City Casino Studios. Be right back in just a little bit.
107.7 Vintage Radio.
Welcome back to the Local Lick Show. Johnny Dollar here, broadcasting from the Rhythm City Casino Studios. Along with me today is special guest David G. Smith, and we've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about, so let's get right back into it. Dave, tell me a little bit about Bluebird Cafe down there in Nashville.
Bluebird, I guess that's been a kind of a second home away from home for me for since the late 90s. I've been playing there since then, and you know what, I could back it up even further. The early 80s, when I was making trips down there, I guess I saw some of the inaugural shows that it was Jelly Roll Johnson and Tom Schuyler and Fred Knobloch were doing down there, just impromptu, three of them sitting around, sometimes three or four or five, and Amy Curlin was the owner of the Bluebird at the time and started it up. That was her idea, and the thing just, I don't know if you've ever been there. Yeah, and it sits in a little strip mall. It's just nondescript, sitting in a little strip mall out away from the downtown action. And so, but it's just got this cool vibe to it. So it is what's called a true listening room, and which means you come in there, it seats about 100, maybe 120, and when the show is going on, and you got waiters, waitresses serving you food, your drinks, whatever, everybody's listening to the show. And that show can either be set up on a stage, which in that room really is about as big as this room here, and actually the whole club is about as big as maybe this room right here in the studio times maybe 7 or 8, and not much space. So you've got waiters doing their thing, and they're like ninjas. You know, they're really just, you don't, they all wear black, and so it's pretty cool. But anyhow, the crowd, and you come in there, you sort of know, and they got signs up that go like shh, written up there, and because it's a true listening room, and you're going to hear songs by the actual writers that maybe Michael McDonald sang, or Tim McGraw, or whoever, Taylor Swift maybe. You're going to hear the writers, you know, that have written those songs. And you go, oh yeah, The Dance, yeah, I know that one. And Garth Brooks did that one. Didn't he write that song? No, it wasn't him. And that's in country music. A lot of that goes on. I mean, there's some of it in other genres, but especially in country. So listening room experience, and I'm currently for the last 15 years, I've been hosting shows there. So I bring in, I get to do what I get to be a gatekeeper. It's like I hear somebody that, man, these guys are good. I want them in my show. And I've been doing that now.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. And yeah, a listening room, that's got to make you feel good as an artist to know that, or a songwriter to know that people are listening, not just, you go to a concert or something else, a bar here on Friday, Saturday night. There's one thing to hear music. And there's another thing to listen to it, to just sit there and listen to, every word, understand the song.
With undivided attention.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that you're helping really the performer to complete that audio, especially audio, emotional and visual experience. I mean, really, that's it, and that makes the crowd vested when they do that. And we've had a couple shows like that here. If we can, a little bit about the common chord.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that now. Yeah. We got a familiar face joining you there. Tell us a little about what's going on. I think it's next Friday already. Yeah.
Next Friday, so we're gonna dovetail right into a listening room event right here in the Quad City area, down at Redstone Room, formerly known as River Music Experience, it's now called the Common Chord. And we tried to launch this back in March of 2019. We had a show with a couple of my friends from Nashville, and we don't use a stage. We set up across from the bar. Anybody who's been in Redstone, we set up across from the bar where they show slides on like 4 different panels back on the other wall, and so we've got our backs against that wall, and on a little like low riser. But we're in with the audience, and the audience forms like a half moon around us. And so it's an intimate performance, intimate affair. We call it a candlelight evening of songs and stories, and it went over great. And I mean, I don't think the Quad Cities, there's a lot, again, Sean Muller is a great promoter around here, others who have promoted, but never, I don't think you quite have seen a show like this. And so we're going to be next Friday, November 4, and doors open at 7. And I'm going to bring up, again, my friend Alicia Micheli. And Alicia has worked with Taj Mahal and Keb Mo.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And, that's part of the magic of Nashville. We met Alicia and then through the recording process. And then she met Keb through what we were doing. And so they hooked up and, the rest, as I say, is history. So... And then we'll have local songwriter and performer extraordinaire, Angela Meyer.
Yes, of course. Good friend of the station.
Yes.
Good friend. In fact, she'll be here Monday on the Mojo Show. So if you're listening right now, want to hear some Angela Meyer live, she'll be here Monday on the Mojo Show, I think at 1. I'll have to check the Facebook page on that. But yeah, Angela Meyer.
She works so hard. And she puts in the kind of time and effort that you see that a pro does, and that's what they're doing. In Nashville, the people that I bump elbows with, they put in that time and they've got that dedication. So it's going to be Alicia, Angela, and myself next week. We'll probably go a couple of hours, and of songs and stories. So come on out, and if I'm telling people, if you're only going to see one of my shows this year, make it this one because it's going to be cool.
We're looking forward to that. So we'll talk about that a little later on one more time, and of course we'll make a post on our Facebook page, a link so you can get your tickets in advance if you would like, and mark that on your calendar. But right now, though, we are going to hear another song from David G. Smith, and we've got the other guitar out here now.
The other guitar being this anniversary gift I got from my wife while we were out looking for sewing machines. And this is a resonator, and we found it in Jackson, Missouri. And I am forever thankful. Thank you, honey. Thank you for giving me this. You are so sweet. And speaking of Keb Mo, again, an example of some of the magic that can happen in Nashville. And we're in a studio recording a song called I Can't Tell. It's just a fun little thing. And we called Alicia in for this. And that's kind of how I met Alicia. Becca Bramlett was supposed to show up, the daughter of Bonnie and Delaney. and she's still making records, and she just was MIA, so we called up. We were under the gun, so we called up Alicia, and she came in and sang with me on this. And then Keb Mo. I said, boy, this would sound good with some slide on it, and I wonder if, if we had somebody like Keb Mo. Long story short, Keb came in 6 months later, on time, on the date he said, and did the part, and was like, I mean, that's professional.
Yes, exactly.
You know, it's
yeah.
like, and it's magic and so cool to begin with. So, and I know this is a radio audience, but we got a part for you out there, and it's called I Can't Tell. And I'm gonna be going along. Well, I can't tell, and you just sing He Can't Tell, and we'll hear you. I know we'll hear you somehow. All right, I can't tell. My first girlfriend was sweet. My second girlfriend was swell. My first girl found out about my second girl, and I did not go so well. That's another story. Yeah, that's another story. Well, I can't tell. Well, I give a little money to my mama. Give a little money to whoever needs help. And then there is the IRS. Well, that's another story. That's another story. I can't tell. Here comes your part. Well, I can't tell. Just sing. He can't tell. I can't tell. He can't tell. If I'm headed for heaven or hell. Well, I love my friends and family. Love most everyone else. Mean and nasty people who hate, they can go straight to well. That's another story. That's another story. Well, I can't tell. Well, I can't tell. Can't tell. I can't tell. Can't tell if I'm heading for heaven or hell. And I have ruminated. I know that life that goes its way. I talked to the devil, and I have talked to Jesus. They both left me talking to myself. Oh, so I can't tell. Are you still with me out there? I can't tell. He can't tell if I'm headed for heaven. So whichever place I end up, you won't know, because there'll be one more thing I won't be able to discuss. Gonna be another story. Yes, another story that I can't tell. No, I can't tell you.
David G. Smith live in studio here on the Local Lick Show. Dave, we got to talk about your gift back program. Tell us a little bit about that. I really like what you do with this.
All right. Well, it's now this is I want to get a web address out there to you. HeyDaveMusic.com, and I post some of what we try to do with this give back, and you'll get sort of as I mentioned to Johnny before, about a bird's eye view of what any of that give back means. And there's a whole page of it listed out there under a give back title on the homepage. So this is really a cornerstone to what my career is. There's the songwriting, there's the music of it, there's the touring and all this other stuff. But this is what kind of lights my fire. And my wife and I are very lucky to be in a position where we can do this kind of give back. And it's, of course, we do it in our backyard here in the QC community, any chance we can, anytime we're available. We're connected. We've been connected with River Music Experience and now Common Chord since day one. And but it also occurs across the country. We tour nationally. And so this can mean doing shows, performing shows in senior communities, getting music and the arts to people who maybe can't access it. And so it could be skilled nursing, it could be assisted living, it could be memory units, and all the above. And we do that. I probably do maybe 20% of my live shows are in senior communities. So it was a decision, a choice that we made early on to do that kind of thing. And we give them, we work within everybody's budget. We have had many shows at the Redstone Room that we bundled up a benefit, some kind of cause with our CD release parties. And so it can mean doing that kind of thing. And we have worked with the Rett syndrome. We've worked for Alzheimer's. And we have raised either awareness and or money on behalf of those organizations. We have just donated, in the name of our parents, a number of guitars and keyboards to a school in their hometown. And they were, our parents so supported music for we children, we kids, all our lives, and stood behind all our goofy ideas about getting out and playing rock and roll and all that sort of stuff. And but we wanted to honor them. So it can mean a lot of things. Wherever there's a need.
That's a great thing to do, and we're so glad you do that. We'll put the website up later on. We'll mention it later on. We'll put it up on our Facebook page later on, so you can check that out. Yeah. Dave, so what's on your playlist now? What do you listen to now? Is it a mix of some of the stuff that you grew up with and some new stuff? I mean, you're in Nashville, so you hear and see a lot of artists. What's out there for you?
Yeah, and then your timing to ask a question like that, the Grammys are going on. So I am part of that process. And you talk about an eye-opener about how that process works and the kind of music you get to hear. So we just voted first round. So that's on my brain right now. And I get to discover, Marcus King out there, like.
Oh, yeah, he's good.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
And it just goes on and on like that. It's like, how come I haven't heard of these guys or whatever it is? And they're flying under the radar. Jason Isbell, of course, has been around for a while. And Gillian Welch, of course, been around for a while. And I'm all over the board. I still go back and listen to Leonard Cohen. And Joni Mitchell popped up because recently on my social media because recently she was out with Brandi Carlile and doing that show. And it's just, so I'm still, and I look for, Kieran Kane is another name I came across that's stuck in my brain. This guy is so good, and you never hear of him. David Olney. Now, there's a story there. I put together a song on this new album that talks about David Olney, Bill Withers, and John Prine, who all passed away in the same year. And it's like, I listen to all those guys. And David Olney is like the songwriters. He's like a master songwriter. Deeper Well, Emmylou Harris, and many others have. That's probably his best known song. But you probably aren't going to hear about him, especially out beyond the outskirts of Nashville. So David Olney, and Mary Gauthier, my mentor, Daryl Scott. Mary, Grammy nominated on her second last album, writing songs with our military men and women. And it's a beautiful album. beautiful album. And else did I mention there? So there's a lot of, there's so much good music out there. The one thing I'm going to throw in here at this point is there was a mountain stage show on, and John McEwen from the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, he's out there solo sometimes, was on stage with an 11-year-old, just fantastic fiddle player. And the host asked John, well, what kind of advice can you give, our young friend here? And John says, oh, you're putting me on the spot. And he just popped out of his mouth. He says, when I was growing up and I'm playing in a room of 10,000 people, I was the only musician in the room. And these days, you're playing in a room of 10,000 people, they all play. That's the competition he was pointing at. Your competition is really stiff. And how you get through. One last thing I'll tack on about that for anybody who's at all interested in this music business. Mary Gauthier and John Prine were at the Grammys a couple of years ago. They both were up for a nomination. They both, if you can say, lost. And Mary asked John, well, we both lost. Where do we go from here? And John said, we go back to work. That's what we do every day. We go back to work. And hopefully you're going back to a job that resonates.
Exactly. That's key right there, And it's, if you love what you're doing, it's really not a job, and win or lose, that's what brings home the bacon, and that's what you live for, is doing that singing and
songwriting. And that's what
allows
you to be looking, at yourself in the mirror, if and feeling good about it. Your bottom line, it's how do you feel at the end of the day about this? Yeah. Exactly. Well, we got David G. Smith, if you're just tuning in here, and he's already done a few more songs, and I think let's get another one out of you, then we'll talk about what the future holds for you. So what you got for us next? All right, I've been kind of jumping around the different albums put out over the years, and this is one off the latest album, and we got the tour in, we got the publicity, the radio, all that kind of stuff in just prior to the COVID lockdown, so late 2019, and we've had a lot of good radio success, a lot of chart success with these songs, and it just baffles me. Again, there's a little bit of luck involved here, and I want to do a song that I've got a couple singles that have been #1 nationwide, and this is one of them on the Roots Music Report, and this was in December of 2019. This is a song that I wrote with Tom Favreau out of Nashville. And there's been a lot of talk over the past few years about walls and about immigration and what we do with people that are migrating into our country. And when we took the long view of it, that we've been a species that has been on the move ever since day one. And we don't want to throw gasoline on the fire here. Because there's so many hot topics these days. What we wanted to portray with this next song was why people are on the move and what's inspiring them and what's propelling them to uproot wherever they are and try to go somewhere else. And this is an actual story, true story about a Jesuit missionary that was working down on our southern border in Nogales. And he's watching these people. And they know that whether they are illegal or not, what is motivating them to take the risks that they're taking? And that's what we try to address. What are they doing? And what we came up with is it's about family. More times than not, it's about family. They're doing it so they can, do for their family. They're looking for a better life. So this is called Mi Familia. Another migrant stuck in Nogales, shantytown, Mexican side, captured crossing the border, a journey many have tried. I serve them food in this comedor, and some of them I know by name. And when I ask them why they keep risking their lives, the answer is always the same. Me, me, you. My sisters, my brothers, the babies, their mothers, me for me. They freeze at night crossing the desert, drown in the Rio Grande. Violence, poverty chase them on their run for the promised land. And everyone who comes through here has a story and pictures to show. Desperate lives framing hopeful lives, telling me why they still go. Me, me, me. My sisters, my brothers, the babies, their mothers, me for me. La, da, da. The stories tear me apart, but the children will break your heart, and I feed them every day, because all of them are me for me. Sisters, my brothers, the babies and mothers, me for me. Me for me, oh. My sisters, my brothers, the babies, their mothers, me for me.
That was Me Familia by David G. Smith. Dave, talking about, you mentioned it earlier, you are working on album number 11.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so how's that going along?
Oh, this is great. My last three were produced by Bob Seger's 16-year-old guitar player at the time, Blue Miller. And Blue, unfortunately and unexpectedly, passed away near the end of the last project that we did together. And it was a heck of a loss. He's a good friend, just a stellar singer, guitar player. He went on from there to work with so many names everybody would recognize, and ends up as a producer for India Ari. Co-writes Ready for Love with India. And they, 7 or 8 nominations on that deal, Grammy nominations on that whole album. So he helps break her, and he'd been with her ever since. So, again, the magic of Nashville, you meet somebody and you click, and pretty soon you meet somebody else like that. And so I was getting in the process of being introduced to her, along with a song that I brought to the table. And so that we got that record out. It took, extra long time, and some friends came in to help finish it. So now I had to look for a new producer. And so back to my friend and mentor, Mary Gaucher. And I had 2 other people I was talking to. One of them won a Grammy during the year we were working with Chris Stapleton. The other one was her mentor. And I was looking for a female producer. And again, I won't name names here, but we have the rapport. We've got a rapport with those 2. And so but they were both busy. One of them was working with Lucinda Williams, and her star has just gone ballistic again. Rolling Stone named one of her car wheels on a gravel road as one of the, I think, the 6 or 7 best Americana albums ever. That changed the face of music. So my timing was not good for that part of it. But so I go to Mary, I say, Mary, help. And she said, go to my guy that just, helped me with my last 2 albums. And so we are having a blast. These guys are great, and they know what they're doing, and they know how to treat a song. And all I can say is I'm in good hands. I'm in really good hands. And so we're going to do video. These guys have a video component to their group. And, yeah, it's feeling real good.
And any idea, I know it's still kind of early, but any idea when people can expect to hear that?
Well, so far, just based on what's happened already, they said the producers said, look, we got 6 days lined up. You'll track here's the first 3 days. They'll come in the second 3 days. Bam, bam, bam. That's what happened. So based on that, I'm going to say we're going to have this done by the end of the year.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to release. Yeah. And it had been, so Blue passes away. It had been 5 years since I had an opportunity. Then COVID hits.
Mm-hmm.
Before I had since I had an opportunity to be in a studio at all. So I've already got another album ready to roll. And after this one, it's just like, because we spent a lot of time during the downtime writing. And that was some of the silver lining for some of us songwriters. So yeah, it'll probably be maybe end of first quarter, beginning of second quarter. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
Anything else you want to talk about before we go?
I just thanks for having me in. It's just been, this is such a great station again, and I think, what you support here locally, you've got coming off the, you've got your online presence and everything, and the way you deep dive into albums and you look at the local talent, and support your community. I mean, this is a beautiful thing, and we tour all over the U.S. And if you folks out there listening don't know it already, you got something really special here, with Vintage Radio. I mean, this is really something special, and so let's do our collective best to support that.
That's right, and we appreciate the kind words. And if you want to see David G. Smith live, you can, along with Angela Meyer, who, by the way, will also be here Monday on the Mojo Show, I think around 1 o'clock. Sounds about right. And Alicia Michili, is that how you say it?
Alicia Michili.
Michili.
Yeah.
Michili, okay.
Yeah.
All three will be at the Redstone Room next Friday, November 4th. Doors open at 7. Show starts at 8. You can go to rivermusicexperience.org, and I believe you can get the tickets there. Advance tickets are $15. And, yeah, like David said, if you're going to see one show of his, make it next Friday. And we'll post a link to that on our Facebook page. And, of course, you got heydavemusic.com. You can check that out. And anywhere else we can find your music online?
Yeah, I'm telling you, in the world of pick and choose, I mean, I'm everywhere out there. The YouTube, of course, got my YouTube channel. And I try to direct people really to the website for the most part. But the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that is in play. And, and I guess I might as well state the obvious here. When I release a record, I work through CD Baby. So we have distribution it's all over. Amazon, everybody's got it. Everybody's got it. So if somebody's comfortable with their account over at Apple, then that's where you go. But I always like to tell people, on behalf of myself and the other indies out there, if you can go directly to their websites, that's where you really help them.
Right.
The most. So, yeah.
Yep. Go out there and help support our local artists and our regional artists like David G. Smith. David, thank you so much for coming in, the kind words, and the great stories. That's so cool. Glad to meet you.
Yeah, you too. You too.
All right. That's David G. Smith. And this is the Local Lick Show. I am Johnny Dollar, broadcasting from the Rhythm City Casino Studios here in downtown Erie, Illinois.